been watching these vlogs, you may be familiar with the big tree. I've done a number of pieces in which I've shown you the tree that has been progressively falling over the course of about a year or two. One of the neighbouring farmers was burning some sticks in this paddock and accidentally set the tree on fire. That caused it to become hollowed out and weakened its structural integrity. And it has been slowly leaning further and further. And I did think it was likely to go any minute. And it has now fallen over. It's an absolutely enormous tree. Fortunately, it hasn't fallen onto the drive here, and fortunately, it hasn't fallen onto a person or an animal, as far as I can tell. I don't see any dead goats or cows underneath it. You can see the crack that was getting wider and wider and wider in the tree. It's astonishing in a way it stayed up as long as it did. That's a lot of weight. Beautiful blue gum. I actually have some of the wood that fell down when the tree originally went on fire, and it's really nice wood to work with. Very old tree. It's a shame, really. It was a lovely tree, but no more. Just to give you an idea of what we have to contend with on a fairly regular basis, actually. Here is a tree that fell over the road yesterday, and to the council's credit, I think it was the council, they did come and deal with it pretty quickly. I think a local farmer cut a bit of a path through it yesterday, and then the council since then have completely moved it. It's pretty rotten in the middle, but you can see how many trees there are, and they do have a habit of randomly falling over. It wasn't particularly windy, but the tree, as you can probably see, looked all right from the outside, but is pretty rotten in the middle. I don't know if a termite has been involved with this or if it's just rotted, but yeah, it's you never can tell. Well, I can't. There are probably people who can. But if that came down over your car, you probably wouldn't do very well. Free firewood if anybody wants it, but you can imagine that there isn't a shortage of firewood. Having said that, some of this would be pretty easy to chuck in the back of a vehicle, and then this is another bit of the tree that was across the road. Again, pretty rotten in places, but that feels solid. Anyway, there you go. That's the sort of thing that can fall across the road, and if you happen to be driving or running under it at the time, I do jog along here quite a lot, you might not do very well.
Welcome back. The cooler weather that I alluded to last week, if you saw that, has arrived for one day only, or at least for the next few days until the weekend. So I am going to be doing the work on the garden that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but the weather has made it a bit tricky for me, amongst not being here, being in the city and things. So my time has come, and I'm heading over to the potting shed to assemble the materials that I think I'm going to need for this task this morning. I want to get this job done pretty early on because it's cool and early, and I don't want to be disturbing too much the creatures that are necessitating, in my mind, me doing this job. So let's go and have a look. Okay, so my first task is to deal with this. This is a plant called holy sage or bee sage. I grew it from seed, and it's an excellent plant, and true to its name, is usually covered in bees. And so I'm happy to encourage it from that point of view, because bees are excellent, but it's gone very like bleh. So I'm hoping I might be able to stake it and then upright it, but who knows. So I'm going to try that, and then I will show you how it went. There's that done. It's only a temporary problem really, in that once the flowering is over, I can cut these flower heads off. But whilst they're still attracting bees, I don't want to do that. So this is my compromise. What I'm going to do now is go around and do any pruning that needs to be done, and then I will do the weeding, and I will do the same on the first flower bed, and that'll be my day underway. I always think it's one of those situations where you probably can't really see the difference, but I'm pleased with how that's looking. So this is the original garden bed, which I've given a tidy to, and I took the opportunity to remove the temporary caging I put around the Californian lilac whilst it was getting munched by the nursing wallabies. It's definitely sprung much more into life, so that's great to see. And then if I spin round, here's how the donut bed is looking, along with the slightly more erect bee sage. Again, I'm pleased with how this is looking and how this is coming on. We are yet, as you will notice, to get the Benton's water feature that I'm wanting to put in the centre of this garden bed, but life has been pretty hectic and we can't just do whatever we want whenever we want to, but it is on my list of things to do, along with many, many other things. But look what I found whilst I was working on the donut bed. If it is what it looks like it is, it's a very, very, very small horseshoe. For all I know, that's not what it is at all, but certainly that's where my mind went. You can see, compared to the palm of my hand, that's off a very small horse or a little pony, I don't know. Anyway, that's really cute. I think I'll keep that. I'm not sure what I'll do with it, but obviously if you're superstitious, hopefully that's a good portent of the year ahead. We've got to early mid-February and nothing bad has happened to us yet. That's the first time in 2 years I can say that, so maybe this will be a better year. But yes, if I stand back so you can have a better look. I'm not sure how well the colours are coming out in this relatively flat light. The eagle-eyed of you may have noticed last week when Will was talking about his indoor wall climbing experience. Behind his head there were some paint swatches, and that is because we're now finally turning our attention towards redecorating the interior and exterior of the house. So for this main living area, my intention had always been to go down a green route, and we are sort of hovering between these two. This is probably our favourite. It's less lime green in reality than it's coming across on the phone, and this is less grey than is coming across, so it's not quite conveying to you. In some respects, as I'm looking at it, that looks more like that looks in real life. But yes, so there's those options for in here, and then in our guest bedroom, I'd always fancy going more down a blue route, and actually weirdly enough these are probably a bit more true to life. So I'd always pictured going down quite a dark blue route, but I'm kind of taken by this one too. So I need to think about that. Will and I are very much on the same page. There's no massive dispute, but we just need to settle on what we want to do finally. And this is special paint in the sense that, if you didn't know, in between the columns, which basically are the supports for our house, is a course of mud bricks. So it's a mud brick, otherwise known as an adobe house, and then if it was built correctly it would have had a lime mortar and a lime render put on the surface of it, and then it would have been painted with the correct paint. I have a suspicion, looking at how the paint has reacted, that this might be not entirely suitable paint for the wall. Not too sure. You can't just slap on any old paint, because the mud brick underneath sort of, is, in layman's terms, sort of needs to be able to breathe, or you can't have moisture trapped in it, so you need a paint that'll sit well on top of it. This is what this is. This is a specialist type of paint for mud bricks in particular, so it's got a very, very specific finish, but it's going to be the most appropriate paint for our house. The external walls will probably keep as pink, but I'm quite keen to go down a lighter pink. But I'm going to focus on the inside first of all. And as well as painting, of course, what that's going to involve is patching up all these holes and maybe taking down some of the older stuff that's rubbly and repairing that. So that's quite a big job. And I had previously purchased a couple of sheets of plywood, which I'm going to put up here to replace where these shingles had to be taken out where we got wiring done. So we had a light put in here, there wasn't one, and also wiring got put in for the fire extinguisher, the smoke detector, which is the other side of that wall. So they took the shingles down, they're impossible to replace. We don't really like them anyway. So my conception is to take the remainder of these ones down. I can't really do much about those because they're buried behind that beam. And I could take these out, but I don't know if that's worth my trouble. So then what I need to also consider with this is, do I cut it out and paint it the same colour as the walls, or do I get some fabric and put fabric on it? Now I've done a trial run of this, so I know the system works. This is just an old piece of plywood. That's why it's got that crescent at the end. But basically I was able to sort of trace around where the beams are and cut it out, and so it slots up quite nicely. It looks much nicer in terms of the finish. But as I say, do I paint it or do I do something a bit more interesting and put a bit of fabric up there or something? I'm not sure. I was leaning towards fabric, but now I think maybe just painting it. I am planning on starting in this room. Now I'm not starting anytime soon because the weather isn't clement for it. It's actually too hot. And I still have yet to get the ingredients that I need to repair the render. So this isn't a project that's starting anytime soon, but we are laying the foundations for it. And just as a reminder, this is the colour of the outside of the house. And as I say, I will probably keep it pink, but look to go for a lighter pink, a paler pink. So that's what that's all about. Don't expect anything to happen for at least another 2 or 3 months, but we're just laying the foundations for getting this project underway.